everybody. Welcome back to the Covenant Eyes podcast. Karen Potter here, live at NRB. So glad to be with you. I've got Rob Stoddard joining me. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Karen. How you doing? This is a busy place.
Oh, wow. It is packed here, but we're excited because we're having some great conversations while we're here. So who do we have joining us today?
Yeah, our guest today is Mark Hancock. He's the CEO of Trail Life USA. So, Mark, welcome to the Covenant Eyes podcast.
Karen, Rob, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about your Trail Life ministry?
I love talking about myself. This is awesome. I'm married to my wife, Michelle, for 35 years, coming up on 36. We have two sons. Thank you. Yeah. Two grown sons. One married. One gets married in June.
Oh, great.
Both Liberty University graduates. Yep. And awesome. we got to raise two boys, which was quite an experience, but really proud of them. I live just south of Greenville, South Carolina, just south of the headquarters of Trail Life USA. Been CEO of Trail Life USA for 10 years, since our beginning now. But before that, I was a mental health counselor, marriage and family therapist. I ran an advertising agency, traveled around the world putting together evangelistic events and things like that. So I've had an exciting past that's led me to my greatest passion right now is working with Trail Life USA.
That's awesome. So for our listeners that are not familiar with Trail Life, tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, we're a Christ-centered, boy-focused character leadership and adventure organization.
Nice.
We're in all 50 states, have over 55,000 members out of 1,200 churches, and it's what you would expect from a boys organization. We have troops, camping, hiking, robust awards program, patrols, uniforms, handbooks, all those things, and you say, well, that sounds a lot like Boy Scouts. And there are a lot of similarities, but the two major things, the difference between us and Boy Scouts is we are Christ-centered and we are boy-focused. And you just can't say that about Boy Scouts anymore. So we started about 10 years ago when it seemed like the Boy Scouts were kind of losing their way. And we knew there was going to be a need for organizations that maintained and uplifted the traditional values that Boy Scouts had for over the years because they were leaving that space open. So we've seen amazing growth in the last 10 years. And just seeing boys' lives change and seeing fathers and sons learn how to connect better with their boys. Single moms love that they've got a place to send their sons that's safe. Yeah. And also men finding a brotherhood in Trail Life USA as they serve side by side with other men in the outdoors.
That's awesome. You know, technology has really changed the landscape for our boys, for sure. So how do you think programs like Trail Life really are having a positive impact when technology sometimes is having a negative impact? And are you seeing some of those impacts in your camps and in your programs?
We are. Of course, in our whole culture, we're challenged by this digital age where, it's hard for us to connect to each other when we've got a phone in front of our faces. Yes. But for the boys, we're exposing them to the great outdoors, which is something that I was raised in the outdoors. You come home when streetlights come
Same.
on.
I'm not a boy, but I was raised out there.
But that's not normal anymore. And so we're exposing boys and men to the outdoors, and they're getting this experience where they find out a new place to connect. And so we do have our concerns about the digital. In fact, we just released a book in December along with Brave Books called Too Much Tubular, and it talks about it's a fictional story for kids, and talks about Freedom Island, which is a fictional place where the whole island has been taken over by Tubular, which is a social media thing. And so it's these tubes spit out photographs, and people can't wait for the next photograph.
Oh,
and the moral of the story is the heroes head outside the city, and they find a Trail Life family that's camping out there. They're like, what are you doing different? We're sitting around a fire enjoying each other's company.
Yes.
And they talk about this thing called moderation. And so they take that back to the city and set it free. So we're intentionally looking at the effects of the digital age on boys specifically and providing an alternative to where they can go outdoors and find out something new, that there's wonder out there where you don't have to scroll and you don't have to do anything other than just experience that time with God in the outdoors.
Amazing.
Certainly we love the idea of, the difference here is the gospel and just getting that biblical worldview enthused in them. So what kinds of things do you do to really begin to open the gospel to these young guys?
Yeah, well, we charter with churches and who share our mission, share our vision. And each one of those troops is going to kind of take on the personality of that local church in terms of how they're going to evangelize, their theology, how it is that they walk out their faith traditions. But we like to talk about Christ being infused throughout our program, kind of like carrot in the carrot cake.
Yes.
If you eat a piece of carrot cake, you're not going to get big hunks of carrot, but you're going to get carrot in every bite. And because we charter across a number of denominations, dozens of denominations. Christ is in every bite, but that troop gets to walk out in terms of the theology or the doctrine or the faith traditions of that particular church. So you can show up at a church that worships God, one way, and another church that worships God another way. All of them agree with our Trinitarian statement of faith, and there's no wild stuff out there.
Yes.
But boys get to experience in the faith tradition of the church that they're being raised in, that their family is encouraging. So they have the flexibility to do that, but you can't get through trail life without encountering Christ.
That's incredible. So are you guys partnered at all with the American Heritage Girls organization?
American Heritage Girls, we love them. In fact,
Yes.
last night I had dinner with Patty Garibay, who's their executive
wonderful.
director.
Yes, we
We're
know
very
her.
good friends. They were there at the beginning, and so there were 50 of us that met in Louisville, Kentucky in 2013. They hosted that meeting, and so they're very much instrumental in our beginnings. And Patty and I meet on a regular basis. Patty's husband, Pat, is on our board of directors, so we have a great relationship with American Heritage Girls. Amazing organization, separate organizations.
Yep.
They're for girls.
Yes.
Girls need a program that's aimed
Yes.
at their strengths, and we're for boys because boys need that.
I love that. So, I mean, the two organizations are just ideal for churches looking for a way to really, because Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts used to be the way. I mean, I grew up as a Girl Scout and a Brownie, and unfortunately, those organizations don't share our worldview any longer. So, this is exciting. Well, for our listeners out there, we want to direct them to some of your programs or how they can get engaged. So, where can they go to learn more about your organization? Maybe bring a troop to their home church or something.
Sure. You can go to traillifeusa.com,
Okay.
Trail Life, 2 L's in the middle, and there's a Get Connected tab. It'll show you a map of the United States. You can put in your zip code, and it'll show you the troops that are nearby, and you can just connect with those troops. If there's not a troop, there's a tab for Start a Troop, and it shows you how with 5 adults you can start a troop in your local church. Right now we have a couple downloads, free downloads there. One is Let Boys Be Boys. It's called 3 Winning Strategies for Leaders of Boys. Shows parents who know this already that boys and girls are different.
Yes.
That's a radical statement, but we believe it. And boys and girls are different. It talks about the biological, psychological, developmental differences between boys and girls and how to account for that in the way that we're interacting with boys. And then another book called Raising Godly Boys that talks about our 4-step proven process for turning boys into godly men. And both of those are available for free right now for download at traillifeusa.com.
That's great. We'll put show links in this episode so that you can be sure to get to all of those. You mentioned a book earlier that you have with Brave Books. Can you give us the name of that book again?
Too Much Tubular.
Okay, Too Much Tubular, listeners.
Bravebooks.com.
All right.
One follow-up question on that book. We deal with the issue of pornography, and we see young men and women getting younger and younger and younger being exposed to pornography. Does this book deal with the issue of pornography in any way, or do you, as Trail Life, step into that issue at all with the guys?
Not that directly. We do talk a lot about digital and about screen time, and we've always encouraged Covenant Eyes along the way. I'm a user of Covenant Eyes with my 2 boys. Have been for years. In fact, they're in their 20s now, and I still get their reports, so they haven't asked me to stop.
That's awesome.
But we do partner with Covenant Eyes because we think that's an important issue. But that book doesn't directly address it because the digital is
a big issue.
Certainly, pornography is huge.
Yeah.
But just boys being able to learn how to connect again, or simple things like eye contact.
Yeah.
Even amongst parents. You sit in a restaurant and you got families sitting around and they're all on their devices.
I know.
What Too Much Tubular does is it gives the parents the opportunity to have that discussion. Because in the book, they're like zombies, these people who are, and so they can sit in the
That's
restaurant.
real life, though.
It really is. And so sitting around the table in a restaurant, you can see the dad kind of nudging a boy, saying, I see the zombies at the next table, and that they can begin to recognize in their own behavior what it is that they're seeing through others and what it is that they're seeing in the story. And so that opens that discussion for families to say, we don't want to be zombies.
No.
These are great tools that we have. We're using electronic digital communication right now. Wonderful tools to have.
Sure.
But the idea of moderation and using them correctly as tools rather than distractions is key to the next generation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Mark. This has been an awesome conversation. We'll be sure to make sure all the links are out there for our listeners. And, get a troop going in your area or find a troop. This is a program we need to support. Our boys need a way to be boys and to grow up in Christ-centered programs like Trail Life. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Take care. God bless.